Black Cat Mountain in search of a spurious rattlesnake. But later that afternoon, after he'd spent hours in the sun at the Range Pond's public landing, checking the hulls of sport fishing boats for an invasive weed called milfoil, he found himself passing the trailhead on his drive home and felt obliged to stop. His thoughts were still mired in milfoil as he climbed the short path up the hill. His department's program to arrest the spread of the lake-choking weed was worse than futile. It was a waste of time. Mere shreds of the plant, caught in an outboard's propeller, stuck to the hulls, were enough to spread the pestilence from one pond to the next, rendering the water unboatable, unswimmable, and ultimately uninhabitable to certain aquatic life. The warming climate was bringing many new species into the state of Maine: red-bellied woodpeckers, emerald ash borer beetles, maybe even timber rattlesnakes, if his caller was to be believed. The milfoil scourge seemed less like an invasion from away than from an alien galaxy. The Black Cat Mountain Trail was overspread by native white pines and white oaks, the sheltering leaves of which did little to break the late June heat. When he reached the top, he emerged onto an east-facing ledge with a vista of Lower Range Pond. He'd hoped for a cooling breeze at the summit, but the air was as breathless as at the base. He had hoped, also, to meet hikers whom he could ask about the reported snake, but the only people he encountered were a surprised, half-dressed teenage couple who had the smell of cannabis and coitus on them, and ran behind bushes before he could get a good look. "No, man, we haven't seen any snakes," the boy said, enunciating slowly, taking pains not to sound stoned. He had rock star hair and a trace of scruff that made his face look more dirty than rugged. "No snakes," the girl giggled, clutching her bra to her sizable chest because it was unfastened beneath her blouse. Bowditch was 27. He guessed the lovers were a decade younger than he was. But as he was dressed in his field uniform with its heavy bulletproof vest and heavier gun belt, he couldn't help but feel grizzled and world-weary in their adolescent presence. His colleagues in the warden service had rightly warned him that the cares of the job would age him, but he was only now beginning to appreciate and miss what he had traded away to wear the badge. He would have thought the prospect of rolling around on the same hilltop where a rattler had been reported might prompt the lovers to leave, but they remained crouched behind the bushes waiting for him to depart. "There ain't any dangerous snakes in Maine," the sweaty boy offered. "I know that." "So why are you saying there are?" "I'm just telling you what someone reported." He handed the kids business cards with his name and number and told them to call if they spotted a snake of any kind. "If you guys see anything." Then he left Adam and Eve to begin again their innocent gropings amid the serpentless trees. 3. That night he was awakened by another phone call, this one from the warden who patrolled the adjacent district, a twice-divorced cynic named Tommy Volk who embodied everything Bowditch feared becoming. "You're not gonna believe this," Volk said. "I just got a call from a buddy of mine who drives an ambulance for Sebago EMS. He and his partner are transporting a kid to Maine Med who was bitten by a rattlesnake." Bowditch kicked off his top sheet. "Don't tell me it happened on Black Cat Mountain." "No, it was at a keg party in a gravel pit in Casco. The kid was passed out in some weeds when his friends heard him scream. One of them stumbled over to help. There was a timber rattler attached to the guy's leg." The hair follicles on Bowditch's arms tightened into welts. "How do they know it was a rattlesnake?" "Because the kid who rushed to the rescue beat it to death with a 2x4. He sent me a picture he took of the carcass. I'm headed out to the pit now to fetch the thing. I thought you might want to tag along. You studied natural history at Colby, right?" In fact, Bowditch had majored in human history, but he saw no reason to correct Volk, who was not alone in the warden's service, in considering him to be overeducated and therefore suspect. "What's the kid's name?"